sex scenes in storytelling. A lot of people, I mean, I kind of lean towards this camp too, where it's a little unnecessary. I don't have like people like George Martin, for example. He'll be like, "How can you understand the life of the dwarves if you don't watch a bunch of dwarves fuck?" And then I'm just like, why do I need to watch them? You can mention it. You can offhandedly mention it. If they got a weird quirk with their lovemaking, you don't have to like describe the entire scene, for example. Their breeding habits. Like for my case here, my reptilians are able to be sterilized by removing the tail, which doesn't make sense in real life. But these are fictional creatures, and I'd imagine humans are smart enough to do some sort of surgery after that, right? But I don't like go on into the surgery and describe everything and like talk about stuff. I don't know. The logic doesn't hold up for me. But go on.
I understand what you're saying, but also, okay, you have dragon characters. So these are kind of like I forget the race in Skyrim. They're not too dissimilar from like the reptile people, correct? Is that fair? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So they lay eggs, right?
They do, not mine.
So are they like
Not your
humans
egg?
before, or is there like an egg and then like the dude like later?
No.
Is it like frogs?
Oh, with Skyrim?
We don't need all the details, but I'm like, wait, how's
Right.
it work? I'm
right.
kind of curious.
You're talking about Skyrim? You're talking about Skyrim?
Well, I'm talking about your book because you're a writer, so you're not writing these scenes. You're writing about the tails being cut off. But I'm, part of me is like, if you were George R.R. Martin writing your story, and you're like, no, you gotta know about how to lizards have to do their relations. If that was it, I don't know how he sounds.
Something like that. Yeah.
So they just like, are they like, hey, what's up? And they hand you like an egg, and you're like, nice, or is it?
I looked this up, and there's a lot of I had to look at the breeding habits of lizards. Yeah, dude, it's crazy where writing takes you. But
Well, what King Bob says here, right? I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Almost all sex scenes are unnecessary and just lazy writing and a cheap way to gain attention. I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I don't know
before we get to that, let me just say, they have babies like us, just like us. They have live birth. And there are many lizards who do this. Snakes, for example. There's some snakes. I believe garter snakes. I once caught a garter snake and put it in my fish tank, and I was like, "Your name is Caesar," because I'm a little boy. I named it a boy name. All of a sudden, Caesar pumps out a bunch of babies and eats half of them.
Oh, yeah, geez, that's traumatizing.
And I'm like, whoa. So we separated Caesar and tried to raise the little baby snakes, which are adorable. They're like this big, a little baby snake. It's a live birth. But yeah, that was one example from my childhood that I could have remembered, but I didn't remember it until I looked some of the stuff up. But like a lot of reptiles have live birth. The egg thing is interesting.
I gotta make myself a note to look this up. Sorry, Bats, go ahead.
Well, I mean, like sci-fi or even just fantasy, more in sci-fi, but it's like the first thing I always ask, given the one we're doing, creating, it's like the first thing I ask is like, how does reproduction work for the race?
Yeah.
But at no point we're like, let's describe the way they reproduce. Like, no.
And the sounds they make. And yeah.
Like how it could happen, it could be important, but also it's like, okay, but dwarves, I'm just gonna assume they have sex like the normal way. Like you need to hear or see it.
But what kind of music's on in the background? Are they putting like bagpipes or like jar and some gut bucket or something? Like,
well, even like a mention of that's fine, like that'd be a little interesting tidbit. But like again, we don't like it's like what is it, Top Gun? I might get some heat for this, but like Top Gun, like you're watching a movie, you're like it's cool, then all of a sudden they just the music starts and they start banging it out, and it's like
yeah,
okay,
or James Bond. Bond too. Yeah.
But I do want to I don't want to go too far. I do want to state, guys, remember
boobs. Two things that have only never let me down in this entire country's history: the First Amendment and boobs.
One of the most uncomfortable sex scenes I've ever seen in anything, and it's a good movie. This scene still to this day, and the older I get, I'm like, what the is Big with Tom Hanks? Where he's like a kid. I don't
remember a sex scene being that. No,
there is, dude. And he,
I haven't seen that movie.
Grabs her and stuff, and I'm like, whoa! As a child, I don't remember this at all. This scene was just, I was probably like, ew, and looked away, and the rest of the movie was just like fun. Rewatch it, you're gonna be like, how did this get?
Yeah,
they filmed this. Who let this go through? And then you're like, oh, it's Hollywood. That's okay.
Tinfoil hat time. Tinfoil hat time. When
Tom Cruise or not Tom
when
Cruise.
special Tom Hanks, right? You
Yeah.
said Tom Hanks. Big.
Thanks,
Yeah.
X.
When Special Childhood Fun Time Island was discovered with all the celebrities and stuff, and you know who didn't delete himself? After that, Tom Hanks fled the country.
Oh,
Take
really?
that for what you will. Yeah. And
Yeah, he went to Greece, where like pedophilia
Is he still there?
Pedophiling.
he might be.
Pretty common.
I haven't heard of any movie
Reduced
since.
sentences and stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then you combine that with the thing that you just said about Big. It's like, ooh, icky.
It's like, what was it, Umbrella Academy, one of the seasons? It's like, okay, like I got a lot of shit for like mentioning that this was gross when somebody's like, oh, I like the show, because it's like one of the kids was like 17, 16 or something like that, the time traveling kid, and then like there's like the unnecessary scene of this chick like fighting him, and she's completely naked. We don't get to see her tits, which is like, okay, what's the point?
Okay.
But she's naked, and she's obviously fighting naked right in front of this dude, and she's like 30, and it's like, why would you? Can't you just be like, hey guys, I'm not gonna be naked right in front of this kid? Like, I don't want to.
Oh, yeah, like a 16-year-old kid. Oh, okay, yeah.
Like, I get it. He's probably seen boobs before, but it's just like, as an adult, it's just like, I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm not. Like, if it was a guy, 30-year-old guy, and it was a 17-year-old girl, I'd be like, fucking way, no fucking way you're gonna be.
Isn't that funny?
What movie was this?
It's a show, Umbrella Academy. I forgot what season.
The dude from My Chemical Romance made it.
Waited?
Yes.
I think she watched one where half of the first season before she's like,
That's about
the first season was pretty good. They made a drastic change at the end to keep Ellen Page in. She was the big actress, and then dude, it was so funny because like I actually reacted to this. It's a video that's not on my channel anymore. But like I remember like me and my wife, and I'm like watching this. I'm like, dude, Ellen Page looks terrible. Like, she looks just ghostly. I'm like, why does she look so bad? She's not that old. And then it was like that, like right after it released, she like a couple months later or so, she came out as trans. And I was like, oh, that's why she looks like absolute shit. And yeah, it's not like masculine features are coming through. She looks sickly, like just some like Joe Biden essentially.
You're suppressing bodily functions with drugs. Like, you're gonna look sickly. Like, it's
so these are examples not only of like unnecessary scenes, but also like what the kind of scenes, like way beyond. Because that's what I think it was Animation Overload said. There's like explicit versus implied, and this isn't. It's even beyond explicit. It's just like, who signed off on this? Like, what team of people all agreed that this should be in the movie, and then the actors and actresses agreed, like, sure, I'll do this in front of a room full of strangers with cameras and sound equipment and put it on a screen that millions of people will watch, and somebody's parents. Like, how in the hell did that get passed through all of those layers and end up on a screen for the masses? It's unbelievable.
Side note, the sex scene in 300 is a real sex scene from what I hear.
Gross.
So yeah, they're actually banging. And the queen is freshly divorced in that movie, I believe. So that's like revenge porn right there, right at her husband.
So that's extra necessary.
Like, super. I mean, you got to give it to 300 though. That was a man. Okay, so there's a lot of things about.
I'm going to do the exact opposite, actually. But go ahead.
There's a lot of things about 300 that was like artistic in a way. I know, like that would be one sex scene that I would deem is not the most unnecessary, personally, because it's showing you how much he loves his wife. It's showing you stuff. It's driving home this idea of like husband and wife. We're both a team. You know what I mean? But not necessary.
Fake guys doing fake things. I mean, as Gary calls them, adult pretenders. You're like, but this one scene, it was like that. I don't. To me, I'm like, it's no different than
chose to write it in here.
Guy in a green screen or something. Like, would it be awesome if they're like, dude, that scene where he cuts that guy in half? He really cut a man in half. That's how much they care about the art. I'd still be like, hang on. Like,
seems a little far.
You don't need to like it doesn't have to be real. It is a movie. Like, it's just
That's
a big
fair,
magic trick for your eyes. I don't know. They,
Yeah.
I think it'd be funny if you're like the whole thing, they weren't even in the same room. It's just tons of green screen. Like, that would be even, I'd be like, wow, that is art. That's really hard to do, actually, as a CGI artist, to have them.
They,
They're, like,
they
in the
just
round
tracked.
and-
They just
Yeah,
use
like-
tracking, like South
Something
Park
like
tracking.
That would be, as you know, I've done a little bit of that kind of stuff. Like, that would be impressive.
Yeah.
In
yeah.
fact, it's actually
yeah,
poor acting because they're just doing it. It's not even acting at that point.
But yeah, that would be one of the sex scenes I would point to that isn't the most unnecessary, but it still is in the scheme of things because, like, it's not in the original material. For example, there's not like a crazy sex scene in the original 300 comic book. There's not. It's just a fact. In fact, the wife isn't even really there, to be honest. But
well, I didn't
but
care
yeah.
when she was on screen at all. Like, we only cared when the muscle mommy men were where they just abs and all. Like, just,
Yeah. The
we're
objectified
gonna survive
male.
on this one apple. Let's go.
Yes, manly.
Yeah.
We're gonna lose,
No.
and it's gonna be awesome. Yeah.
We're gonna lose in the most cool way ever.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, I that's a good example, right? And I kind of agree to an extent. Like, it's definitely not the most unnecessary use. At least it did have like a thematic reason tying into the story. But again, like Justin said, it's like, well, they wrote it. They could have not written it.
Yep. And it's not in the source material, so
Yeah, to me, that's somebody who's on the set that's like, no, I need to see this. And there's
Yeah,
so much
and-
evidence of Hollywood that's the vibe. To me, I interpret it
yeah.
because, as it was said before, implied, you just have like an extra shoulder and like a bra strap slips off, and then it fades to black, and then it's like the next morning, and they're in the covers or something, and we get it.
Yeah.
We understand
We
what
get it.
happened. So to me, for it to be like, no, we need this young girl to be on set. Yeah, we need this to happen. That's like some dude that's like, yeah, we need this to
Yeah.
happen. I need this on. I need this film so I can.
Well,
Yeah.
it's imagine this: porn sells. So
Really?
sprinkle a dash of that in there, and yeah.
Essentially, yeah. That's what it is.
Essentially, that is. And I have literally heard, and this is the cringe of shit, but I've heard it from multiple men that they didn't care how bad Transformers was. Megan Fox is hot. So I'm like, okay,
Retarded.
like, yeah. So yeah, imagine if she showed her boobs in that movie. Like, yeah.
To a
And
broader
I think
point. Oh, go
that's
ahead.
what I was thinking. That's what I was real quick, Justin. This is to your
No, you're
point.
fine. Take your time.
Like it's the people on stage saying, "I want to see this," right? And I think a lot of that is Gerard Butler going hard, deadlifting 300 pounds for like a month at a time, and the other chick, Queen Cersei, probably doing similar athletic routines, and then they're like, "Oh, there's a sex scene. Well, let's actually fucking do it." You know what I mean? Because think about it. She's freshly divorced. Gerard is
I would
just
still on
a
set be like,
specimen.
guys, we're just gonna pretend we're actors. We're just pretending. If you want to
Then
call
the
each other
perverts-
offset,
Yeah.
it's your
Yeah.
It makes
then
me
the
think
perverts-
of Dennis
Ew,
from Always
let's
Sunny
do
in
this.
Philadelphia. Like, when they pitched the movie idea, just guys, we're gonna show penetration.
Oh!
No way!
Start clapping like
Brilliant. Never heard it before. Brilliant. I mean,
And
yeah,
then- and then-
look,
and then there's
sex
Justin in the there's Justin in the back like, is that necessary? And then it's the meme of the guy being thrown out the window. Like, yeah.
But yeah, no, like, hey, this is kind of a little bit off topic, but I mean, it makes me think like with how sex sells. I mean, like, that's why I just recently was like, hey, AC, he should probably get like a. I think that's how the muscle thing started. 'Cause I was like, you should get a cover art. Of,
That's
like, a
right.
sexy lady.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's like, because it's gonna be so, because like how many of these, like, even in the indie world, like how many of these comics are actually getting good numbers? It's like literally just because they have a hot chick that's like pretty much nude on there. It literally, you know, you could see it. Their last campaign or something like that doesn't really do well, and then whoop, stick a hot chick on it, instant sell.
And that's because like a minimum of like 70% of comics is male audience, like minimum. Like
in
it's a
general.
lot.
I mean, if to your point about artistry and artworks, we like to see things that we consider like beautiful in the classical sense. This is a reason why I watch movies, and if they take place in cities, I'm immediately like, this better be a damn good movie, because I'm looking at concrete buildings, unless it's like awesome architecture. If it's like cathedrals in Europe or something along those lines, or like cities built on coastlines, there's exceptions. But if you're in like a sewer in Chicago, you got to do something special to hold my attention compared to a movie that takes place in like Alaska or something. Like, there's beauty in that level. And then of course the actors themselves. You know, if you have who the ladies like, Cavill's popular, Thor, that dude.
Yeah,
like you
The
throw him in
Object.
there, of course people are like, oh well, he's handsome.
Yeah.
You know, I get that. That's totally fine. I understand, but I think there's a line between people appreciate beauty and then going too far with it. I think that's, again, that gets back to the whole explicit versus implied. I think there's a way to have good looking people on there so that they can be like, I don't even care if the movie sucks, man. I'm just there to look at a pretty girl.
Lame. I could look at my wife. I could look at my
Well,
wife.
yeah, not everybody is, you know, a married
I mean,
fella, and there's some
oh,
young
God.
guys out there that just want to look at a pretty girl and have something to
Yeah.
aspire to, and you know, all
Yeah.
that. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna.
Yeah.
I understand the mentality behind wanting to have beautiful people.
Sam! Sam!
Don't you talk about Megan that way? Don't you dare!
I'm just gonna
Megan, you
watch the
watching?
2-hour movie and look at the pretty girl.
That's how simple men are,
Brie
though.
Larson's so hot.
That's
I
not
mean-
with guys and girls. There's, you know, girls that would go watch like did Magic Mike have a great storyline.
Every
Or,
movie with every movie.
Whoa,
Shooting whatever it was.
whoa, you
with
coming
the
for my man,
billionaire
Mike?
guy. Was
Whoa.
that story really
50
great?
Shades of Gay.
That's
Yeah. You know, and like every romantic comedy where cheating is the center of the plot for some reason. All
Mm.
female audience. It
Well,
sucks.
okay, let's have. You just watched a clip from the Iron Seas podcast. Make sure to like this, subscribe. It helps us out a little bit. And please catch the show live at 9:30 Eastern every Tuesday.